Hello and welcome to the Election Corner on One Man Think Tank. Today we're going to be discussing the 2020 presidential election, namely my prediction for the second week of October, which in this case is October the 7th through October the 13th. Ooh, spooky 13 in Halloween month. But anyway, it is spooky for one group, the Republicans, because I've already filled in all of the safe seats, and as you can see, Republicans have lost. Now, you might notice there are three likely seats on the board: Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. These three seats are flips to the Democratic Party from 2016, of which Donald Trump is the incumbent. And I do not personally believe that you should ever mark a seat where an incumbent is losing as a flip. If it's two new candidates, yeah, flip. If it's, or if it's a new state or something, you can flip. But in the case of this, Trump's the incumbent, you don't do safe. But Joe Biden is polling so well, I'm just putting these on the safe category. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, where Joe Biden is above and away, running away with the vote. And here's a key factor in all of this. Early voting is currently going on, and it's either soon to be or currently, it just flipped. Over half the states will be allowing early and mail-in ballots to be over half the states are allowing mail-in ballots right now. But I believe over half the states will allow early voting very soon. And that changes the manner of the election. For many years, and now, states have had early voting before, but it's becoming more widespread across the country in use. And Donald Trump is dropping significantly in the polls. And previously, a candidate could recover. Typically, you have some early voting, but you recover before election day, and you can kind of maybe get away with a few scars from the early voting, but nothing that could cost you the election typically. Well, now we know, I believe, almost maybe more than 5 million ballots have been cast. To give you an idea, in the 2016 presidential election, 120 million ballots were cast, roughly. And that might say, oh, it's only 5 million, that's not much. To give you an idea, that is 1% of 120 million is 1.2 million. So we're probably, during this time when Trump is dropping and looking really bad, we're going to get almost 5% of the vote in. That's election costing for people, especially when he's doing poorly. It only encourages people to go out and turn in their ballots. And the Democrats have been running, from what I understand, fairly successful get out to vote campaigns in their blue battlegrounds and their safe states, which can only hurt Trump more. So keep that in mind as we go forward. Ballots are already being cast. So it doesn't matter if Trump starts recovering a bit later or what you think. If he's polling poorly in a state such as, let's say, Ohio, we'll get back to them in a moment now, it means he's going to have that handicap for the rest of the election. The same would be true for Biden, but in this case, he's getting a boost from it. So let's dive right in with our battleground states. Or we'll narrow it down to our battleground states. Not all of these are battlegrounds. So there's actually three likely states on the board. First one for the Democrats, Arizona. Joe Biden was doing decently in Arizona. By far and away, decently. Not amazing, not poorly. And there's a Senate race going on there that the Democrats are doing mind-bogglingly amazing in. Joe Biden in the past couple of days has seen a massive upswing in Arizona, which, in my opinion, so it was already likely, but it is a strong, likely seat for the Democrats. Not likely enough to be safe, but a strong likely. For the Republicans, they do have two seats which are likely, but both of them are bad news. They're Kansas and South Carolina. These states should not be on the board for any Republican candidate. This is due to Trump dropping and competitive Senate races in both of those seats, in my opinion. Unlike states like Montana and Alaska, where people really do separate the presidency and the Senate, Kansas and South Carolina have long-standing histories of voting down ticket. Which is fine. Most states do. It's rare to be so, well, I'm voting this way in the Senate and this way in the presidential election, which Montana and Alaska are known for doing. Kansas and South Carolina, on the other hand, are not. And as we see the Democratic challenger in the Senate rise, because we don't get much presidential polling out of these states, but there is a correlation when you see the Democratic Senate candidate rise, you can assume the Democratic presidential candidate is also rising. Same with the Republican candidate. Trump is dropping. These are competitive races in the Senate. We're seeing, so he's slightly dropping in these states, as are the Senate candidates, and the Democratic candidates are slightly rising, meaning both of these states are now competitive, but not anywhere close to being like, oh, are they toss-ups? They're not. No. Now, are there any leans states which are not toss-ups? Now, leans is always such an interesting thing. You see, there are two categories below this. Leans, which is this lighter shade, and tilt, which is this even lighter shade. I should have come up with better terms for that. But anyway, now you've got so leans can sometimes be used to describe a toss-up election where you're pretty sure you know where it's going, but you can't, but it's fluctuating so much, you're just a little bit more sure it's going to be either red or blue. While a leans state that you're sure about means most likely the candidate you expect is going to win it, but there could be a surprise victory on election day. That's less so in likely states. So, are there any leans as I've just overly described? Yes. In fact, the two district ones, Nebraska's 2nd District and Maine's 2nd District. Democrats are polling better and better in Maine's 2nd District. In fact, people forget this. Maine's 2nd District only broke from the rest of Maine in the presidential vote in 2016. Every other time while they've had this system, the state has voted uniformly blue. I think Maine's 2nd District is going to return to that for this election. As for Nebraska's 2nd District, there is a strong candidate running in the House race. They don't seem like they're going to win. They don't seem like they're going to win, but they're running a strong race, and Joe Biden so far has polled decently there, including winning with Barack Obama at the top of the ticket in 2008, indicating he might have some appeal there that's not been seen. But for right now, it leans Republican. So these are our 6 toss-ups. And they are all bad news for the Republicans, because if they lose any of these seats, it basically kills the election for them. Texas, Iowa, Ohio, North Carolina, and Georgia and Florida. All of these states are must-wins for the Republicans, and this is why this map is so bad for them. Not because the Democrats, they're doing really well up here. The Democrats are basically, at this point, guaranteed to win Pennsylvania unless there is a massive fluke in the polling. Same with Wisconsin. Michigan, a little bit more but almost guaranteed. But let's say they lose one of these states, if they win any of these, except for Iowa, I believe, they will win the election. Meanwhile, if Republicans lose any of these seats, it's guaranteed they don't win. So, how about we go smallest to biggest? Let's start with Iowa, which I'm currently putting as leans Republican. One main reason for this, Iowa is a state that has held consistently red for the past couple of years. It has been getting more red, and what we see every election cycle is people talking about, Iowa's going to be blue this year. It's going to be blue, massive turnout, and then the turnout doesn't come. Because so far no one can manifest the Barack Obama win a lot in the lose by a little bit in the counties you're not expecting to win, and win a lot in the counties you're expecting to win. No one else is doing that, and frankly, I can't blame the Democrats for not running in Iowa. They're running, but they're not running in Iowa, because it's 6 votes, and they've got more competitive seats. Now, I'm going to say something about Iowa. Watch this seat, because, and this is really important, the Trump campaign has pulled their ads out of Iowa. That indicates you either pull ads out of a state when you're feeling super safe about it, or when you are low on money and trying to plug holes in the ship. In this case, I think they may not be feeling the most confident about Iowa, so it could very well become more competitive before Election Day. And the Senate race, in many ways, has gone more and more blue, indicating there could be either mixed ticket voting going on in the state or a subtle blue shift we aren't seeing. The other state where the Trump campaign has pulled money out of is Ohio. And in my opinion, and this is going to be a bit controversial, Ohio is tilt Democratic right now. Right now, the Democrats have a slight advantage of winning, and this is because they have Joe Biden on the ticket. He polls really well. He's got that Sherrod Brown energy. For those of you who don't know, Sherrod Brown is the only statewide Democrat elected in Ohio right now at the U.S. Senate, and he is very popular there. Think of him as the Joe Manchin, who's in West Virginia, of Ohio. And Biden's polling really well. Trump has managed to damage his reputation quite a bit in Ohio. And Ohio, so I've spoken about this when I talk about Oregon and Mississippi in other videos. Ohio is a state which has a very high floor for the Democrats, but a very low ceiling. Meaning they really need the Republicans to kind of screw up if they're going to win the state. And let's just say they've been really fortunate this time around. Now, before I go on, I just want to mention this one more time. Like I said before, there are 6 toss-up seats. I am not going to leave anything as this gray toss-up. I believe you can mark every seat as leaning one way or another, and just putting it as pure toss-up is a bit of a cop-out. So, what's next? North Carolina, how about? Which I'm putting as leans Democratic. This is up from tilt, for one main reason. Joe Biden's polling better. The Senate candidate, despite having a bit of a scandal, is polling really well. The governor, who's a Democrat, is polling really well. The Democrats are pulling away in North Carolina, and Trump's snafu could very well cost him this state. Meanwhile, down in Georgia, let's give the Republicans a little bit of breathing room. Georgia is tilt Republican right now. Joe Biden's polling really well there. The Senate candidate is showing a general incline in the state. Like I said, many of these Senate and presidential races are correlated in general sweep. But I don't think Joe Biden's going to win the state most of the time. Has a solid chance if last minute push or, who knows, at this rate he may actually shoot someone on 5th Avenue. We'll see if that gets anyone to change their mind. But yeah, Georgia, like I said, it's because right now you got a really negative push, and people are early voting. And filling out mail-in ballots and making their decisions. Down in Florida, tilt Democratic. I keep going back and forth on Florida. I think Florida is not as secure for the Democrats as people believe. Florida, unlike other states, Florida has had a strong history of over-polling for the Democrats and under-polling for the Republicans. So I don't see a Joe Biden leading by about 3 points as in any way a secure place for the Democrats. However, Joe has pulled away slightly. Emphasis on slightly, like a 1 to 2 point change in the polls. But that's enough to change it from tilt Republican to tilt Democratic. And lastly, we have Texas, and I'm actually going to move Texas from tilt Republican to leans Republican. Trump is showing solid support in the polls there. I think Texas isn't going to flip this election. And it comes down to the fact I think Joe Biden, probably smartly, did not invest a ton of money in Texas. He invested money in it, but he didn't invest a ton of money. He really focused on the Rust Belt and Florida, and I think he's going to reap those rewards by possibly winning Ohio and Florida, which, if you can do the math, is more votes than Texas, by far. So this is the final map: 352 for Joe Biden, 186 for Donald Trump. And all I can say now is, if you like the video, please leave a like down below and also drop a comment. I'm always curious to hear your guys' opinions. If you want to see more from the channel, click the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can be alerted when new videos come out. Sorry, got a little lump in my throat. If you want to see more from me outside of YouTube, I have a Twitter at OneManThinkTan1, the Roman numeral. You can see the link down in the description. Otherwise, as always, and most importantly, have a wonderful day.